What if I told you one of the biggest travel companies in the world started because two guys couldn't afford rent? No investors, no coding background, no rich parents. Just a credit card bill, an empty apartment, and a crazy idea. San Francisco, 2007. The rent was due, and they were broke. Most people would panic. Some would call their parents. Others would look for a second job. But Brian and Joe did something different. They bought 3 air mattresses. And that decision built a company now worth billions. This is the real story of Airbnb. Brian Chesky and Joe Gebbia were designers, graduates from Rhode Island School of Design. Creative, smart, ambitious, but not rich. They moved to San Francisco chasing opportunity, like thousands of dreamers before them. But there was one problem. San Francisco was expensive. And in 2007, they were barely scraping by. Then something interesting happened. A huge design conference was coming to town. Hotels completely sold out, every single one. Joe looked around their apartment and said something half joking. What if we rent out air mattresses? Not rooms, not beds, air mattresses. They called it Air Bed and Breakfast. 3 guests paid $80 each. That weekend, they made $240, more than rent. But more importantly, they realized something. People didn't just need a place to sleep. They wanted to feel local. They wanted connection. They wanted experience. And hotels weren't giving them that. That weekend changed everything. The idea felt small, but the insight was massive. What if anyone, anywhere, could rent out extra space in their own home? They partnered with their technical friend, Nathan. He could code. They couldn't. Together, they built a simple website. Ugly, basic, slow, but it worked. They listed apartments during big events. Traffic trickled in. But there was a problem. Nobody trusted it. Would you stay in a stranger's house? In 2008, the answer was mostly no. They were ahead of culture and ahead of trust. Then came their first major failure. They launched during the Democratic National Convention. Almost nobody booked. They were almost out of money. Credit cards maxed out. This was the moment most startups die. Now here's the part that sounds crazy. To survive, they sold cereal. Yes, cereal. During the 2008 presidential election, they designed limited edition cereal boxes, Obama O's and Captain McCain's. They handmade the boxes, marketed them as political collectibles. They sold them for $40 a box. Total revenue? $30,000. Not from tech, not from rentals, from cereal. That money kept Airbnb alive. But more importantly, it got attention. And attention led them to something critical. Y Combinator. They applied to Y Combinator. Rejected at first, then accepted. Paul Graham saw something. Not traction, not revenue, but hustle. Inside YC, they learned a brutal truth. Their problem wasn't supply. It was trust. Photos of listings looked terrible. Dark, blurry, uninviting. So Brian flew to New York, knocked on hosts' doors, and personally photographed apartments. Bookings doubled. That's when it clicked. This wasn't just a tech company. It was a trust company. They added real photos, real reviews, real ratings, verified profiles. Trust became the product, and growth exploded. From New York to Paris, from Paris to London, from London to the world. Airbnb tapped into something powerful. People didn't want cookie-cutter hotel rooms anymore. They wanted tree houses, lofts, beach houses, cabins in the woods. Experiences over luxury. And hosts, they loved it. Extra income, flexible control, a global platform. By 2011, Airbnb was in 89 countries. By 2014, millions of nights booked. And hotels started to panic. Hotels had power. Lobbyists, regulations, lawyers. Cities began pushing back. Illegal rentals, zoning violations, safety issues. Airbnb faced lawsuits, bans, heavy criticism.
But Brian made a strategic move. Instead of fighting cities, they partnered with them. They started collecting occupancy taxes. They added safety features, insurance for hosts, 24/7 support. They transformed from disruptor to legitimate industry player. Then 2020 hit. Travel stopped. Revenue collapsed. 80% bookings vanished almost overnight. Airbnb laid off 25% of staff. It looked like the end. But something unexpected happened. People weren't flying, but they were escaping cities. They wanted remote cabins, long-term stays, work-from-anywhere homes. Airbnb pivoted fast, focused on local travel, flexible cancellations, monthly stays. And against all odds, they went public in December 2020. IPO valuation? Over $100 billion. During a pandemic. So why did Airbnb succeed? It wasn't just technology. It was psychology. They understood people crave belonging. Their slogan says it perfectly. Belong anywhere. They didn't sell beds. They sold connection. They didn't compete on price. They competed on experience. And most importantly, they built trust at scale. If you're building something, remember this. Airbnb started with air mattresses. Not venture capital. Not perfect design. Not millions of users. Just solving one problem for one weekend in one apartment. Big companies don't start big. They start desperate. They start messy. They start uncertain. And sometimes, they start with cereal. So the next time you feel stuck, ask yourself, what air mattress opportunity is right in front of you? Because the next billion-dollar idea might already be in your living room. If you enjoyed this deep dive, subscribe for more real business stories. No hype, no fake motivation. Just real companies, real struggles, real lessons. This is where business gets human.